Hi everyone. So I've changed over to voice because I've had lots of issues with uploading my videos, especially when they're like half an hour long. It takes days, and sometimes even after days it doesn't upload. Right now I'm trying to upload something that I started trying to upload yesterday, and it's still only about 30 something percent. So I thought I'd try changing to voice, make it into like a podcast rather than a vodcast, which is not a real term anyway, but forget that's not important. So I actually wanted to talk about something that's been I've been struggling to understand. So I think I mentioned in a previous post that cheating in a relationship is my biggest no-no, in the sense that I cannot tolerate it, and I cannot forgive it, I cannot understand it, etc., etc. But as with many things in my life, I am reconsidering my perspective, because I realized that many of my fixed beliefs were influenced by very conservative thinking that is not really mine. It's my my community, my society, my family dynamics. It's all shaped by the fact that I come from an Indian family, and as I said, I've basically changed a lot in the last few years, I would say, and to the point that sometimes I look back at myself or think back to my beliefs and actions, and I think, how could I have been so judgmental, or how could I have been so narrow-minded? And I have realized that cheating is another thing that I was quite I had a bit of tunnel vision about, I guess. Like for me, like I thought it was because of my the history with my parents, but since then I've realized, actually, because I've had a memory of my past life where I cheated on my partner. And that was a very eye-opening moment for me to get that memory of my past life, because it made me realize that a lot of the sort of guilt I carried and the fixed cheating is wrong mentality was very much influenced by my past mistake that led to pain to my partner in my past life. And that has clearly haunted me to this life, to the point that I have very black and white thinking regarding cheating. Now, I'm not saying cheating is right. Obviously, it's not. But I've been forced to consider that it's not so much, because obviously when a partner cheats, the go-to answer is to blame the person who cheats. But then I've had some experiences that made me reconsider things, where I look at, nothing is ever that simple. It's never black and white. It's always about the gray areas in life. And when you think about it, yes, obviously cheating is wrong, but the reasons behind the cheating is usually loneliness. And that loneliness comes from sort of neglect from your partner, right? Like you feel your partner is maybe not understanding you, you feel disconnected from them. Obviously, they might be feeling the same way about you, and sometimes life puts temptation in your path that makes you feel like cheating is the answer. Oh, you do stuff in the moment that you later regret because of the pain that it causes your partner, who you do actually love, and the fact that the loneliness caused you to pursue something that you normally wouldn't have. And then the shame that comes with that. And then if the partner finds out, the emotional pain that comes with that, the betrayal, whether it's possible to renew that connection. And I feel like, I'm going to sound old here, but because I'm, technically this is still my generation, but when you look back at older generations, those couples who have basically stayed together forever. And that's because, some of it is that you kind of tolerate stuff that you shouldn't. But at the same time, if you really love someone, don't you try to make it work? And I don't mean that you should tolerate disrespect or stay in toxic situations, but I mean, if you're committed to a person, whether that's like a long-term partnership or a marriage, whatever it is, once you make that commitment, then it's kind of when you take your vows, you're basically promising unconditional love, right? And unconditional love, by definition, means that no matter what the other person does, you still love them. And yes, if that person is toxic, is not willing to change anything even after multiple chances, then obviously you do need to cut that connection off. But what I mean is, like, we are so used to instant gratification that we think that, if you break up, then that will solve things, or separate from them, that will solve things, divorce them, that will solve things. But if both parties are willing to, or can make themselves willing to actually listen to each other when they make mistakes and understand each other's not so great patterns, toxic patterns, if they understand each other's childhood wounds, and especially if you work with a family therapist or a couples therapist who can really help you to clear the misunderstandings between you, then shouldn't you try and do everything to try and keep that relationship? Because you did make the commitment. And again, I'm not saying you should stay if there's any violence or any real toxicity that you cannot do anything about. I'm talking about one mistake or one episode of cheating, or I really don't know the answer. I'm actually just thinking out loud at this point, because this is something I've been struggling with, because the previous version of me would have been like, nope, you cheated, that's it, we're done. But now I'm opening myself up to the possibility of, okay, if the person who cheated because they were lonely and because they felt neglected, and you're in a committed relationship, shouldn't you actually try and address those problems of loneliness and neglect and try to move forward, instead of jumping to another partner with whom you more likely than not are just going to repeat the same pattern, because you haven't done the healing, you haven't done the learning that stops. Do you see what I mean? Ending a relationship and going to the next one is just is not really a solution, is what I'm saying. It's you do that because you think that will change things, but you haven't done the healing and you haven't learned why things went. Sorry, I accidentally paused it. So I was saying, so you haven't, when you jump from one relationship to another, you haven't actually done the healing and you haven't done the learning necessary that will help you with your next relationship. So more likely than not, you're just going to repeat those patterns. Whereas if you make yourself aware of your childhood wounds and your attachment style in adult relationships, as well as your partner's childhood wounds and their attachment styles and their triggers, this is what I'm getting at. So no person is perfect, but you can learn to heal each other's imperfections and adapt yourself and each other so that you can move forward by understanding each other. And for that, you actually need to do the work. And by work, I mean actually communicating, actually talking to your partner, having an honest conversation with no other distraction, no kids, no friends, nothing. And just dedicating maybe, I don't know, an hour of your day or an hour a couple of times a week where you literally just sit down and talk about your relationship. Talk about what is going on. Just ask, how are you feeling in this relationship? Do you feel like I am there for you? Do you feel like I made you happy this week? Do you feel like what did I do anything that made you unhappy? Did I do anything that made you angry? And it's really important the other person actually listens not with a defensive mindset, which will just trigger a fight, but listen to actually understand. Because when your partner, for example, says, well, to be honest, you've been really working a lot this week and I felt neglected. And it's really important for the person who's saying it to say it in this way, like I felt versus you neglected me. That's an accusation. But if you use I statements and say, I felt neglected because you've been working a lot, that is not an accusation. And the person on the other side that should listen to that and think, okay, I've been working a lot because, I don't know, I've got money problems, I've got this, I've got that, but my partner is telling me, she's not accusing me, so I shouldn't be defensive. I shouldn't immediately start saying, oh, well, I have to earn a living, because that's what people would do normally. But it's important to think to yourself, okay, she's right, I've been working quite long hours this week. It's because I had valid reasons, maybe, or maybe not, doesn't matter, really. But the problem is she feels neglected by me. So how can I change my behavior so that she doesn't feel neglected? And in the same way, both of you should take turns to express and ask these questions of each other so that you actually get to understand each other, rather than existing in two parallel universes that just coexist together because you made that commitment. Maybe you're just staying together for the kids. Maybe you're just so tired of each other, and you're emotionally just unfulfilled. But you need to take some responsibility and accountability and realize you are actually part of that problem, because you're not doing the work to communicate to your partner that you are feeling this way. And it's easy to bury yourself in work, and that's what a lot of people do, including myself. You bury yourself, you distract yourself, because it's hard. It's really hard to face those emotions. It doesn't feel good. It feels bloody awful sometimes. It's just easier to, put your, just invest all your time in work or in a hobby and just ignore the massive elephant in the room. But then it does mean that your relationship is not fulfilling you. You are being alone. You are lonely. And chances are your partner is feeling the same way because you are both in this relationship together. You're supposed to be teammates, but you're not being teammates. You're just coexisting. Like, relationships are work. Like, the initial stages are fun, it's all passion, it's a honeymoon phase, etc. But then real life starts and you have all these responsibilities, and then having a partner seems like more of a burden and you feel resentful of them, even though they're in the exact same position as you. You made this decision together, so it's both of your responsibility to make the relationship work, and for that you need to invest time in it. It's not about ignoring this situation and just pouring your energy into work or into children. This is another thing. Like, if you have children, you might be pouring more energy into children than your partner, again feeding that neglect. And it's important to find a balance, because life, it's full of different commitments, different responsibilities, and it's really important to make, because we do have is it 16 hours in the day? Yeah, so 8 hours sleeping time, but 16 hours in the day. And if you can't, and that's just one day, so in 7 days, if you can't spare 1 hour or 2 hours a week where you actually have a conversation with your partner, a real conversation that is just talking about the relationship and not about bills or about the kids or about, I don't know, the grocery shop. No, it needs to be actually about the relationship, about the emotions involved. And a lot of people avoid talking about emotions because it's easier to suppress the emotions, ignore them, pretend they don't exist. But you know what? That doesn't work. Trust me, it doesn't work. You need to stop being afraid of your emotions and actually start facing them. And that is a big lesson I've learned, because I've spent my whole life suppressing my emotions, and that sort of almost destroyed my mental health. And it's only when I stopped doing that, when I started actually facing up to my emotions, facing up to my feelings, not denying my feelings because I'm afraid of the pain, etc., and also the discomfort that comes from sort of thinking about it, but actually sitting there and having an honest conversation with yourself about how you feel and also how your partner feels. And it's actually important, like, to do some kind of journaling or meditation every day where, like I said, 16 hours in the day, you can spend half an hour on journaling or meditation where you actually think about your emotions separate to your partner. This is you time, and you spend a bit of time. That's literally what I've done today. So I woke up, I did a bit of work on artwork, then I left the house, and then I came and sat at a park bench, and I was sort of guided. I had my journal with me, so I opened it and I was like, what is there in me that wants to come out right now? Like, what is bubbling under the surface that I'm kind of not willing to really look at, because I was actually on my way to the bus station, but my intuition told me, no, before you gallivant around and distract yourself, there is something that is bubbling under the surface of your emotions that you need to actually look at. So even though I didn't want to, I made myself come and sit down at this park bench, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll write a poem. And I took out my journal, but then I saw the blank page. I'm like, no, it's not a poem that wants to come out. It's like, what is bothering me right now? And I started writing it, and it's about this cheating thing. And then I realized, hold on, okay, I need to talk about this, because I've been getting guidance to start talking more again. But the problem is, the last few videos I've recorded have all, like, I've not been able to upload them. It's been a nightmare. That's why it's been taking me so long since the last video. I've uploaded several, but they're just sitting on my phone right now. But okay, it's fine. So I'm hoping that making this video audio thing is going to help with that, so I can start talking again more frequently, because I am being guided to do that, because I'm getting the message that my voice can heal, and the experiences I've gone through, I have to share them so that I can help others heal. And I actually didn't have a clue what I was supposed to talk about, but I asked for guidance, and that's when I was brought to sit down here and start journaling what is bothering me. And then I was like, okay, now I understand. It's about this, what I've been thinking about for the past few days, about how cheating is not black and white. It's about there's, both sides and the underlying causes behind it. And then once I started talking about that, it followed naturally for me to talk about how to resolve those problems, because the first step is to understand there's a problem, identify it. That's 50% of the work done. But then you do have to do the other 50%, which is basically solving that problem so that you can have emotional fulfillment with your partner, and your partner can have the same, because you both deserve that in each other. And like I said before, it's important that both of you are willing to do that work, because you are a team. You are together for a reason. You chose to be together for a reason. And it's important that both of you recognize that relationships require work. And you can't shy away from that work. You made a commitment to each other. And you both need to be willing to put that work in. And avoidance is the major issue that comes here, where you avoid talking about problems. You just ignore the problem and hope it goes away. But that's about as practical as, closing your eyes and hoping no one will see you, to use a cliche. So avoiding it is not going to make it go away. You need to actually face yourself, face your own emotions actually first, before you can go in there and talk to your partner. Think about why you feel emotionally unfulfilled, and think about how you feel and what behaviors your partner might be doing that is contributing to you feeling that way. So actually, I would recommend actually sitting down and writing half a page on this. Actually, under one subheading you can write about how do I feel about my relationship. It doesn't need to be paragraphs. It can be just bullet points. It can be just words. It's more about, the writing is more about helping you to think through your emotions, because that helps me. Like sometimes when you're just in your head, your thoughts can feel overwhelming, because there's like cognitive dissonance. You can have conflicting thoughts. You can feel like you're going a bit crazy, and oops, sorry, I accidentally crushed the insect. I didn't mean to. So I was saying that, so sometimes when your emotions are all in your head, it can feel very overwhelming, and that contributes to the avoidance of wanting to just get away, suppress them, of wanting to push them away, of wanting to not look at them. But that is avoidance, and that only makes things worse, trust me. So writing stuff down can really, really help to get you out of your mind, get you out of that overthinking mode and into finding solutions. This has helped me a lot, because I am a chronic overthinker as well. And overthinking has made me feel like I'm going crazy a lot of the time. So, like I said, get a piece of paper, write down under one heading, how do I feel in this relationship? Then, first write down, after that, what is my partner doing that makes me feel this way or contributes to me feeling this way? Then write down, what am I doing that is making this situation worse instead of better? And then make another thing where it's about, what can you do to help this situation, and what can your partner do, or what can you ask your partner to do to make your situation better? And then both of you, if you both agree to do this, if you both agree to write down stuff that bothers you, behavior, self-reflect on your own behaviors and on your partner's behaviors, and then come up with a plan of how you can maybe move forward in a better way. And then you both come together and have a discussion where both of you have the chance to talk about how you feel, and please try not to be accusatory and try not to be reactive. The person who's expressing the needs to be using I statements, I feel this way, versus you do this, you do that. That is not helpful at all, and it makes the other person feel like they're being attacked. And the person who is listening or in that moment, try hard not to take things try hard not to be defensive about things. Try to take it as constructive criticism rather than an attack. And that is about you actually sitting there and thinking, okay, actually, maybe your partner says, I feel like you spend too much time out with friends and I feel alone a lot. Okay, so you can, there are two options. You can either immediately think, oh, you don't like me having friends, you're being controlling, blah, 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 blah. That is not helpful, okay? That's really not helpful. Because the other person is genuinely expressing their loneliness. You may not have meant to make them feel lonely, but that is how they feel, and you cannot invalidate them. But you could say, I'm sorry that you felt lonely. That was not my intention. How can we address this so that I can still spend time with my friends, but also have time with you so that we have a better relationship? But it should be a balance, because clearly friendships are also necessary. You cannot spend all your time with your partner because that is not healthy. But you should also not be spending all your time with other people. There needs to be balance, as I said before. And maybe one person has less friends than the other. So maybe you could look into possibilities of increasing their social circle. Maybe find shared interests that could help them, become more social. Or if they're not interested in that, find hobbies that fill your time, that fulfill yourself, where you are alone but you're not lonely. Because it's really important that you're not loneliness, that you become comfortable with solitude. And this is something I've had to learn as well, because if you're not comfortable with solitude, then every relationship you have will be coming with a sense of codependency, where you're dependent on someone else for fulfilling your emotional needs, and that is not healthy. You need to be okay with yourself by yourself before I wouldn't say before being in a relationship, but because that's not how it works, because no relationship is going to be two completely healed people coming together. It's going to be about people with their own wounds, their problems. They come together and they're able to help each other, and they're able to work together as a team to overcome the problems through compromise. But you can't do any of that if you don't communicate with each other. I'm going to leave that there. I have no idea how long this podcast is, because I can't see that. I need to make sure I can see that next time. But I will continue to post more on this subject. I hope it helps. And I hope you really think about, if you're in a relationship where you're feeling lonely, I really hope you think about just doing what I suggested, having some time where you journal about how you feel in this relationship, and then behaviors, sort of self-reflection about behaviors that could be contributing to the issue. And then you come together and you discuss this, both of you, in a mature fashion, and you come up with ways to compromise, to help each other feel better. And also make sure that you do discuss childhood wounds and attachment styles. It's really, really important. Please educate yourself on that. There's lots of videos out there. There's lots of content out there that talk about this. I especially like Jimmy Knowles. His videos are amazing, I think, and he offers a lot of advice about how to be in a healthy relationship, how to, he offers great tips about how to basically how to cultivate a healthy relationship in your romantic life. Thank you guys. See you next time.